In Cairo, Alexandria, and Suez City, there wafts the sweet smell of jasmine and the joy of freedom. The dictator Mubarak has vacated his fascist throne. He was deposed not by religion or ideology, but by democracy in its purest form, the people in the streets. Inspired by Tunisians, Egyptians rose up and took back their country from a foreign-backed dictator. To them, all credit is due. Mubarak used every fascist trick to cling to power. He unleashed brutal police and security forces, but Egyptians overwhelmed them. He made hollow promises, but Egyptians saw right through them. He created an AstroTurf counter-revolution with secret police and paid thugs, but Egyptians resisted and arrested them. His thugs attacked the media, but Egyptians got the message out. He negotiated with the Muslim Brotherhood, the suppression of which had been his raison d'etre for 30 years. But Egyptians didn't give a goddamn. He lied that the protests were abating, but Egyptians rallied in ever-increasing numbers. Finally, Egyptians surrounded his palace, and he had to go. The rest of the world had vacillated. Obama told both sides to exercise restraint, although only Mubarak's police were instigators of violence. Mere hours after Mubarak walked, the US was issuing directives about its expectations of Egyptian-Israeli relations. Stephen Harper held that Mubarak was the only option for peaceful transition right up until Mubarak left the building. Then Harper too started making noises about Egypt having to honor treaties with Israel. Never has the true impetus behind Western Middle East policy been more nakedly evident. The Egyptian revolution was a general strike and a sustained fluid demonstration. Its strength was its lack of leadership. By operating this way, it actually demonstrated what the internet is for. It also demonstrated the importance of real journalism. I subscribed to Al Jazeera during the Tunisian Revolution in order to better follow the developments in the region. I have to say, watching Al Jazeera made me nostalgic for the days when there was real news reporting on North American TV. The CBC reported the story for weeks under the banner, "Crisis in Egypt." But of course, it was only a crisis for capitalists who lost about $300 million US each day of the 18-day uprising. The Egyptian army is now in charge, and normally that's not a good thing. However, the army has comported itself admirably during the uprising. But second to Israel, Egypt is the biggest recipient of US foreign aid, and the Egyptian army is the beneficiary of much of that aid. Hence, the US will work through the army to saddle Egypt with a Western-style democracy-flavored plutocratic regime. But I don't think the Egyptians are going to settle for that. In Tunisia recently, some cop who didn't get the memo slapped a woman on the street when she argued with him over some infraction. Instantly, massive protests mobilized, scaring the living shit out of the transitional regime. The cop took a beating and is now in jail awaiting trial. It took 3 weeks of protest to end 3 decades of Mubarak rule. But it's not over. He remains in Egypt. But that could be a good thing. Maybe one day he'll be arrested at his Sharm el-Sheikh palace and be tried for his crimes. Maybe one day he will even have to make restitution for the $40 billion he stole from the Egyptian people. That would be about $500 for each Egyptian. For many, almost a year's salary. But for today, let the world honor the hundreds of brave Egyptians killed by the police in the struggle for freedom. May they lay in fields of jasmine, that we may always remember the sweetness that flowered from their sacrifice. From Toronto, for Rabble TV, I'm Umberto da Silva.
واللي اسم مصر دايما كان له طاقة الانتصار، اللي ضحى لاجل وطنه لاجل ما يعود النهار، واللي اسم مصر دايما كان له طاقة الانتصار، اللي حلمه حلمنا واللي فرحه فرحنا، اللي نهر النيل بيجري جوا دمه دمنا، يبقى واحد مننا، أيوة واحد مننا.